The Let's Go Live button, which means we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plains of the internet before we go ahead and get started. And Zach Nichols is here. He says Rob's late. I don't think so. I think we're on time here today. Zach, my friend, I think we made it, baby, because it's Monday and we're trying to, start the week off right. And hello, everybody. It looks like the stream is alive and well, which means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And today we're talking about the Roe versus Wade afterbirth. Oh gosh, that's right. Over the weekend, there was a big mess that was made all over the country. And we're going to have to poke around and see exactly what's going on out there because, even here in Arizona, I went out on Saturday down to the Capitol building and I posted a video of that for our members. And there were a lot of people out there. And Saturday was actually the calmer of the two nights here in Arizona. On Friday night, we had Insurrection 2.0 here in Arizona. We had the Arizona Department of Public Safety issue a statement. We had state senators who were sitting there in the state Senate chambers who heard the pounding on the doors and then had to flee out of the Senate chamber, which means our democracy was interfered with. There was also damage and graffiti on some of our most cherished institutions in Arizona. And I don't even think anybody got arrested for it. So we're going to have to unpack Insurrection 2.0. We also know there's going to be Insurrection hearing episode, I think 6 is taking place tomorrow. A big surprise there. The January 6th Select Committee, they're sort of trying the suspense card now. They're trying to see if they can get people excited about this in some way, shape, or form. Nobody's tuning in anymore. So they're trying to sort of, I think maybe try one of the cliffhanger formats, that works at HBO, at the very end when the guy turns around and the shadow emerges and the light goes on and you're like, wait, it's that guy? And then they cut to the dark black and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it was him. And you go, can you believe it was him? And they go, no, I can't believe it was him. And then you have to wait a whole week until the next thing happens. So I think they're trying to do that with this J6 committee hearing because they dropped it today. They said, we've got a big event coming tomorrow. You guys are not even going to be able to believe what's coming. And we'll have to unpack that. Now, that broke this afternoon. So I'm not sure if it really is going to be, we're going to get a lot of details on it. But the point is, my friends, that's the outline of the show. In fact, let's take a look at the actual outline because we have it in mind map format. And before we dive into things, remember, my friends, that this Thursday, we've got our member mastermind. So if you want to become a member and take a look at some of the inner workings of, the mastermind format. It's not my format. It came from this book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Classic book, available for free all over YouTube. But a couple places you can join and become a member, either at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, YouTube, or if you need help with a criminal case in Arizona, of course, we can help you with that as well. We also have our Spotlight supporters. Shout out to Q Simple, who just joined up, and he's our first website link there. So you might want to go check that. I'm just saying, you might want to check it out. What is Q Simple? Might want to go check it out. He's over on Locals as well. Shout out. Chris Romero, David B, and Dr. EMB are in the house as well. Now, I want to take a look at the actual sort of aftermath, the afterbirth, where we're coming from. Because last week on 624, we went through the entire opinion. We talked about the Supreme Court, the actual Dobbs ruling, the Dobbs opinion, the summary of the case. This, of course, here was a 6-3 decision by many people's calculations. Some people are calling it a 5-4 just because of the Roberts concurrence. But this is the summary. We went through this in fairly good detail, right? It's a huge opinion. And we did take a look at the syllabus, the head note from the opinion, and spent a lot of time really going through the reaction. The idea that maybe some people might be calling for a national emergency. Judge Thomas was, of course, one of our meme smiths who showed up to be a part of the show back then. And that was last week. Now, today, we're starting off with the aftermath. And so we've got a couple different topics. We'll take a look at, first of all, some of the reaction out there because there is a lot of it. Take a look. We've got some questions about what Kamala was doing. We've got Mitch McConnell came out and gave his opinion on the abortion saga. We've got the DoorDash abortion, which it's not really DoorDash. It's sort of like HHS abortion is what they're talking about. So they're investigating what the U.S. government can do in order to facilitate this new sort of delivery method in the wake of the Dobbs ruling. And we've got Health and Human Services, Becerra, we've got another reporter, and of course, Kamala was out over the weekend. A lot of people were asking her, what's your take on this? And so we'll take a look at those opinions. We've also got several individuals who are African-American, as we can see here, who are basically calling Judge Thomas, who is also African-American, some pretty pejorative language and bad things. And I think it might be racist, but I can't tell if it's racist or not because things are really complicated these days. So, I'm not even going to try. We'll just put a question mark here. I don't know if it's racism or what. We'll just put a question mark. Questioning is what we'll say this one is. So we'll unpack that. There's a lot of questions about legitimacy of the Supreme Court opinion. Is the court legitimate at all anymore? AOC was out over the weekend. We're going to talk with her, and we've got Elizabeth Warren as well. Both of these two ladies are saying the Supreme Court is basically a dead institution, right? Useless. Shouldn't even really be paying much attention to them because it's just not that meaningful. New polls came out over the weekend, and I've been on our member board, that we've been talking about this a bit. What are the consequences of this ruling? There's supposed to be this red tidal wave that's coming here in November. And is this going to change that? Right? Is this going to deviate that from happening? I don't know. We're going to have to see. But some good analysis, actually, over from hotair.com. Two bloggers I like over there, Ed Morrissey and Alla Pundit. They have sort of competing interpretations. And I wouldn't even say competing, but Alla Pundit is a good poll analysis guy. And, well, we'll see if we get to that. And then lastly, we're going to say, well, that's our special surprise. We've got a special surprise at the end of the show. I don't really want to ruin it. Well, okay, I'll ruin it. At the end of the show, we'll get to this Pelosi Elbow saga. I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, but we talked about this morning. This is the post-millennial. They captured this, and this is where I think I first saw it over the weekend. But this is Mayra Flores. This is her daughter, and this is Nancy Pelosi. And apparently Nancy Pelosi just shoves her elbow into this little girl, like, get away from me, you gross little girl, or get away from me. You is racist. I don't know. Is it a racist maneuver? Or is it just that she's like the daughter of a Republican? I don't know. And she might be, more of a Republicanist rather than a racist, or maybe she's both. I don't know. So we'll unpack that. We'll probably have to go frame by frame on that one. We'll save that one for the end of the show. And several people from our locals community were sort of commenting on that one. It's fun. And of course, my friends, there was a surprise January 6th hearing. So we'll get to that near the end of the show because there's a new story coming out. And actually, Breitbart got the exclusive on this one. And apparently Ken Klukowski is another lawyer, and he's saying that what the January 6th Select Committee is presenting in front of America is actually not honest, right? And you might go, wow, are you serious? They're not being honest with us? That's true. I know, it's shocking. But he's saying that they actually took some of his deposition out of context and that is not okay to do. And so he's got a whole response. And so we'll go through some of that. But that's the outline, my friends. And as I mentioned, I really do appreciate your support if you join us at any one of our online communities over on Locals or on YouTube. And that keeps the show rolling and keeps us very excited. And let's see, shout out to the mods in the house. Who's here? K Bean, Just Cause is here. I think that's who's holding the fort down. Shout out to K Bean and Just Cause. All right, so let's get into the show. Now, as we left off, okay, a big part of the conversation was really around the reaction, okay, because on Friday, all this stuff had just started to kind of drop. All of the anger was percolating around. We know that, this was a sort of I think it was a Friday night drop just because they wanted the Friday night going into the weekend to disperse some of the anger and animosity. And there was a lot of that going on. And in fact, Kamala Harris was on top of this. Now, Kamala actually posted this on Twitter over the weekend. Actually, this was Friday late at night at about 4:30. She came out and posted this. She said, America, I know there are women out there who are afraid. To those of you who feel alone and scared, I want you to know the president and I are fighting for you and your rights. We are in this fight together. So that's Kamala Harris now. And of course, she's posting that, right? Saying we're in this fight together from an airplane, Air Force Two. And which means she's like, I don't know, 30,000 feet in the sky. I don't know, like way up there. I'm not an airline pilot or a biologist, so I don't know a lot about anything, but she must be pretty high up there. And she's watching CNN with a bunch of protesters on the ground who are, I guess in it, right? Actually in the fight. And so she got ripped from a lot of people on her own side saying, it doesn't look like you're actually in it at all. It looks like you're on Air Force Two flying around in luxury. And I was listening to Scott Adams earlier, I think today. Was it this morning? Maybe he was this morning. I don't remember. Maybe over the weekend. But he said, he caught this aide who was running out of the door, right? The person grabbed the camera and that aide's like, I better get out of here. I don't want to be seen with Kamala at all. I got to go. And so this aide is just like juking out the door. That's the best photo they got, because all the other photographs with Kamala, she didn't probably look as serious. She probably looked like a big joker, like the whole thing was, they're like, the aide ruined that photo. Let's try it again. And then she probably got her face there. They're like, hey, do your concerned face, Kamala. And she's like, I'm really concerned about women, and everybody's like, no, that's terrible. Okay, we'll just use the photo with the aide in there. Just post that one for the love of God. All right. So that's what's going on with poor Kamala. Good evening to Mark Owens. Good evening to the Cougar Experience with the super chats who are chiming in here. And we'll get to those here after we get a little bit of a break. But that was Kamala. Now, the Republicans, of course, here we're going to take a look at Cocaine Mitch McConnell. Now, I say that lovingly. Okay, Cocaine Mitch he was accused of snorting cocaine by one of his primary opponents in one of the most fun primaries ever. And, he kind of sometimes maybe there's some truth to it. I don't know. For example, this photograph. Well, he looks a little tired. He doesn't look too coked out there right there, as far as I can tell. But he did have something to say. Let's check the coke status level. This is the Turtle McConnell, who, by the way, just signed a gun rights bill, which is terrible. Here.
With regard to the abortion issue, what the court did in effect was return this very controversial issue to the people and their representatives.
Let's see if he gets coked up.
So that it can be decided through the democratic process. Now, that's almost entirely likely to occur at the state level.
Wow.
And let me tell you why. In the Senate, most things require 60 votes, not just 51. Neither side of this issue has come anywhere close to having 60 votes. So I think this is likely to all be litigated out, dealt with in the various states around the country through the democratic process.
Yeah, that's right. He's exactly right. And that's our, Republican GOP, Republican leader out there full of vigor and energy, just delivering his message. And okay, right. There's really not much to Mitch McConnell. I don't really know what he's about. I really don't know. He's been in charge for a long time, but what's he stand for? I don't really have any idea. So I think he's excited about that. And he did not seem coked out. Maybe a little more coke would be good for him. All right. So now those are the sort of easy reactions, okay, from our elected political leaders. The leader of the Senate. All right. Kamala, the leader of something. She's, giving us her opinion on this. And last week we were joking a lot, actually, about this concept of DoorDash abortions, private enterprises that are going to be facilitating the delivery of abortions by moving people places, by taking, you work at Amazon in Texas. Okay. You need an abortion. All right. We'll fly to California and Amazon will foot the bill. And, actually this is popped up over the weekend. A lot of companies are actually jumping in on that and saying, sure, happy to pay for your abortion. And they're probably doing that because they don't want to pay, maternity leave and all of that other stuff. They're like, yeah, sure, we'll fly up. What's a flight cost? Coach, row 33. Okay. So $500 there, whatever an abortion costs, fly it back. All right. That's probably cheaper than paying somebody for, 90 days of maternity leave or whatever their policy is. And so they're much, much more inclined to do that. Now they'll come out and they'll say it's all about women's rights and, freedom of choice, and they're, woke and virtue signaling and all of that. But, a lot of this stuff comes down to, Bottom line, right? Dollars and cents, and whether they can sell more products and all that type of stuff. So you're going to see a lot of that virtue signaling. Now, I was sort of joking about it, like, watch this happen. They'll come to your door, show up with a vacuum or something. And it turns out, they're actually trying to figure out how to facilitate, using government money to help this sort of enterprise continue, because the last thing they want to do is allow the states to really resolve this on their own. They want the federal government to constantly be sort of putting their thumb back down on the little peasants, us in the states, because the federal government is more important than the state governments, and they know better than we do. So here is Kamala now. We've got several different clips. Let's start with this one. So this one came over from NBC, and this is on their NBC News Now. Apparently this one hasn't gone, bankrupt or whatever like CNN Plus did, but they're talking about what this means. Essentially, this is sort of, tell us what you found out after all of these consequences have hit. And she's going to talk about HHS now, thinking about funding the transportation of birthing people in order to facilitate abortion.
Blaine, I wanted to ask you about several companies that say they're going to help their employees if they need to go out of state for abortion access. Yeah. What companies are we talking about here?
Yeah, we're talking about some pretty big names, Stephen. We're talking about Disney and Netflix, Dick's Sporting Goods, all among that list that seems to be growing by the day. What's also interesting is over the weekend, Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra told NBC's Kate Snow at the Aspen Ideas Conference that his department is actually looking into providing transportation services for women who are seeking to go across state lines to get those services.
So the federal government, right, is going to be paying for people to travel across state lines for abortions. And now, there are always unintended consequences of things, so like, for example, you might say if you're, like, say an ardent pro-lifer, right? Somebody who's been fighting this cause for a long time. One of the most disgusting things that you could think of the federal government doing, for example, might be using your money, your tax dollars to facilitate abortions. And maybe this case, this Dobbs opinion reverses some of that, but maybe, right, it opens the new floodgates, the new federal funding door for abortion vacations, right? Get on a bus, get on a Greyhound, and we're just shipping people back and forth across state lines to conduct their abortions right on the dollar of Health and Human Services or whatever federal entity they deem appropriate in order to do this. So, and it's not just the government, right? These are big corporations that are also behind this: Amazon, Disney, Netflix. And, I might be somebody who is overly cynical to some degree, but I got to imagine it's probably cheaper for these companies than to say, have an employee on their health insurance policy that gives birth and then adds a child to that health insurance policy. And then they have to carry on employing that person for a long period of time, right? It's probably a lot cheaper for that company to just say, why don't you just go to California for the weekend and just do what you got to do? Okay, we'll cover it. No questions asked, no problem at all. But they're going to get, raised up on their shoulders and be held as sort of heroes of society for protecting women, so that you don't get to raise a kid and enjoy your maternity leave. So you can just kind of take a couple days off and get back to work. All right. And I guess that's the new America. So that was the reporting on it. Now here is Health and Human Services Becerra, who is these people are just amazing. This guy led us through valiantly the last COVID crisis. And now here he is talking about abortion. Let's see what they're going to be talking about. This is Kate Snow. She's over at NBC News. Let's listen.
What are you doing concretely in response to the court's decision to try to help women?
What are you going to do?
We're working with centers like Planned Parenthood, so we are restoring funding for Title X, family planning services. We are working with supporters on the ground to make sure that we are providing services to women where we can. We are looking into everything, including assisting in transportation, something that HHS doesn't typically do.
Can you do that legally?
Watch.
Talk to me later.
Whoa.
I mean, that's a big question, right?
I always tell my team at HHS, if you've done your homework, then we have no right to do mild. And so we're going to be aggressive and go all the way. And I would tell you if you're recording, so I won't tell you. So,
I would tell you if you... Oh, you're recording, so I won't tell you. Did you hear this? Let's back this up. Let's go back here. He's trying to insurrect the law. right? The Supreme Court just came out and they passed down a ruling and they said, hey, Roe versus Wade is garbage law. Get it out of here. And they are the Supreme Court. It's in the name. That means that they make the final law of the land. Look it up. And so they did that. And now he's going to say, we're going to try to, sounds like, deviate around the law. Insurrect the law. Conspire. Is this seditious conspiracy? Let's listen.
Title 10, Family Planning Services. We are working with supporters on the ground to make sure that we are providing services to women where we can. We are looking into everything, including assisting in transportation, something that HHS doesn't typically do.
Can you do that legally?
Talk to me later.
Talk to me later.
I mean, that's a big question, right?
I always tell my team at HHS, if you've done your homework, then we have no right to do mild. And so we're going to be aggressive and go all the way.
Now here it comes.
And I would tell you if
you weren't recording.
You're recording, so I won't tell you. So,
This is all on the record, Mr. Secretary.
we are looking at every option, and among those is transportation.
Say that again?
We are looking at every option, and among those is transportation.
Transporting women to other states. What are you...
Clapping. Perfect. Yes, I can't wait. Okay, so you can see. Now, we're not going to listen to it again. All right, so that is Becerra, and it's apparently, you know, a little bit illegal, maybe not perfectly above board. That's why he can't tell you about it. So you're just going to have to sit there and wait for your Uber delivery, DoorDash abortions coming to your house. All right. So that is our Health and Human Secretary, who is protecting the health of women. All right. So that was the DoorDash abortion argument, and we're just moving down the list here. Now, Whoopi Goldberg, and, you know, normally we don't go over to Whoopi, but Whoopi, well, we're going to check what Whoopi has to say. But first, here was what Lori Lightfoot had to say. Now, Lori Lightfoot, of course, is the mayor of New York City. No, Chicago, not New York City. Who's the mayor of New York City? It is, I can't remember his name. He was also out this weekend. We played him last week. Adams? Is it Adams? All right, I'll look it up. Here is Lori Lightfoot. Now, she was out, I think, at a rock concert or something. I mean, look at her. She's here. I think this is maybe an abortion, like vagina voter rally or something. I don't know. It looks like a lot of pink and red. Here, well, let's see here. She starts, you know, kind of getting up there, and she's working the crowd, man. She is going to be saying something. And I think I don't know if this is bleeped or not. Yes, Adams is the mayor of New York. That's right. And I think that there may be profanity in here, so content warning. Let's take a listen here. But she's going to be scolding Clarence Thomas, the judge.
If you read Clarence Thomas' concurrence, he said, thank you, fuck Clarence Thomas.
Oh.
Fuck you, Clarence Thomas.
What?
He thinks that we are going to stand idly by when they take our rights.
He thinks that we're going to stand idly by as they take our rights. She dropped the F-bomb towards the judge. And she's threatening him, right? We're not going to stand idly by. And she looks angry. There might be bloody mist floating around the air there. I have no idea. But my goodness. So it sounds like she's making a direct a threat, assault, or you know, encouraging murder of a sitting U.S. Supreme Court judge. So I would expect the FBI to show up at her door with search warrants and seize all of her assets and all of her cell phones and digital records and drag her down into court, right? Because you can't say this. This is ridiculous.
Clarence Thomas, concurrence, he said, thank you, fuck Clarence Thomas.
You can't. That's illegal. We have almost 800 people being prosecuted for, you know, saying bad things and being where they shouldn't be while saying those bad things and making threats towards people. Okay. Remember, like, for example, Enrique Tarrio wasn't even there on January 6th, and he got indicted. Curious. So sounds like Lori Lightfoot is a part of a seditious conspiracy, somebody who is very insurrectionary. We'll have to follow up on that. Now, I'm going to guess the FBI is not going to be playing their game with her. But Whoopi was also, of course, ranting about this over the weekend. And I think she was saying something also to Clarence Thomas. Let's listen to her.
Well, you better hope that they don't come for you, Clarence, and say you should not be married to your wife, who happens to be white. Because they will move that. And you better hope that nobody says, you know, well, you're not in the Constitution, you're back to being a quarter of a person.
We're back to the 50s.
Because that's not going to work either.
I think she said you're going to go back to being a quarter of a person. I don't know what so I don't know what she's talking about. First of all, that wasn't the right ratio. It wasn't 3/4, but it's, also, wow. So, wow. So I had not actually listened to that clip before we played that. Let's listen to that one more time. What the heck did she just say?
Well, you better hope that they don't come for you, Clarence, and say you should not be married to your wife who happens to be white. Because they will move that. And you better hope that nobody says, well, you're not in the Constitution, you're back to being a quarter of a person. Because that's not going to work either.
Yeah, so is that racist? Is that race? Are these two statements racist? This one's not, right? This one, she's just saying F off, we're not going to stand idly by. But that one, I think, has to be a racist statement, right? Isn't that racist? She's sort of saying that Clarence Thomas wants to, she's sort of saying that Clarence Thomas wants to put black people back in chains, which is not what Clarence Thomas said. That's what Joe Biden said. If you remember, he said that, that Mitt Romney was going to put y'all back in chains. Remember that? The most racist guy probably, elected in modern history is Joe Biden. And I've said this before, he's the father of the modern day crime system, sort of the three strike structure of the 1984-86 crime bill. He was thrilled with African Americans going to prison, right? Thrilled about it. And now he got elected. All right. So those are those two people. Now, I'm not sure, that they're aberrations. I think you can sort of find this anywhere you look on Twitter. A lot of people with very similar reactions. And a lot of that is sort of the red meat, right? It's the emotional arguments that are being flown around. Whoopi Goldberg, that is a ridiculous thing to say. just practically, right? I don't think, I know that, the Handmaid's Tale and a lot of these narratives, especially the word patriarchy is very popular now. And, men are responsible for a lot of the ills of society. This is another one of those things. So we'll see a lot of those statements, but they are, they're very argumentative. Whoopi's talking about, I guess going back to slavery era and things like that are just so hyperbolic that they're not even really to be taken seriously. But there are some other arguments that are a little bit more serious. And this is something that we've actually talked a lot about here on this channel relatively recently. Talking about the legitimacy of our institutions, of our government institutions, and the idea that they continually crumble and they have been going downhill for a long period of time. And there's an interesting concept, the idea of sort of state capacity, right? What can a state do? What can a government do? What can any entity actually accomplish? And you can sort of measure that and sort of gauge that. In other words, what is the United States capable of accomplishing? If they wake up in the morning, if you hired the United States of America and you said, look, I've got all these projects I need you to work on. Immigration's broken, foreign policy's broken, domestic energy's broken, supply chains are broken. We have no real domestic policy for infrastructure. We've got no real, the list goes on, right? And you said, sir, can you come in here and fix these things for us? And you'd want that person to have a high capacity, a lot of agency to go do those things and the ability to produce results on those. Now, we take a look at what America has been really my entire life. The same problems that existed when I was a boy still exist today, and I'm older now. And I'm gonna guess that they probably still exist sort of in the future because America's ability and the capacity to solve problems has been waning essentially my entire life. And I think a big part of that comes to the legitimacy of the institutions, right? As these government entities, as these bureaucrats give themselves more power, they are doing that at the expense of the people, right? It is a zero-sum game to some degree, right? If they take from the people, then the people don't have that to do with what they want. And typically, in my opinion, the people are a lot more productive and have a higher ROI than the government does. And so we have to have, this constant conversation about what legitimate structures are in our society. What is proper? What can the Congress do? What can the judiciary do? What can the executive branch do? How do all these things interface in a way that don't crush the American people, don't crush you and me? Now, as that balance continues to tip one way, as the government becomes more burdensome, more bureaucratic, they take more of our money, they inflate more of our dollars, they produce less and less results. Right? Foreign policy has gotten worse. Immigration has gotten worse. The sanctity of the dollar gotten worse. Seems like, sort of social cohesion gotten. Why is that? Well, it's because the capacity of the entities is just continuing to diminish. And this is all sort of circular, right? What happens is the institutions do something. You have people who say it's too far of a deviation from what they want to see, and they start demanding that the entire system be restructured. And you can see that right now. And I've been saying this for a long time. The J6 committee is really going to undermine the legitimacy of Congress and the Democrats and of the entire government, right? I mean, they're really shooting themselves in the foot on that one. But it spreads around, right? People don't have any faith in the elections anymore. I mean, the next election is going to be just a mess. And now, right, we're seeing that even the court, which was, and I've sort of beaten this issue up a lot, so just bear with me on this, but the court was sort of the last bastion of supposed independence. And it is being highly politicized here in a way that's going to shatter its legitimacy. And I think, honestly, that this is a big reason why, John Roberts was really trying to stop this from happening. I mean, that's why he was the split vote in the Obamacare bill. He actually voted with the Democrats on the Obamacare bill to squeeze that one through because legitimacy, right? This word in political science, this word in government, I can't explain how important this is, because if the ruling body does not have legitimacy, the whole thing is just going to come crumbling down, right? And we've been seeing that. Many people thought Donald Trump was illegitimate. Many people think Joe Biden, illegitimate. Whoever the next president is, half the country is going to think they're illegitimate. And maybe they're right. Who knows? But now the court was supposed to be that last entity that just wasn't political. And that is just gone now. The Obamacare, I think that Roberts tried to thread the needle on that, make it a 5-4 opinion and support the new president. Otherwise, the country at that time was so behind Obama that if the court slapped Obama with a bad opinion, then I think people would have been angry at the court and it would have undermined their legitimacy. So Roberts split that, took a bad pill just to protect the court. And now he can't stop the floodgates, right? There's too many conservatives on there. Now the balance of power has changed. He wrote a concurrence, but this is a 6-3 changing of the opinion. And it's very consequential because now you're seeing AOC and Elizabeth Warren come out and make statements like this, right? They want the entirety of, they're saying that there is no legitimacy of the Supreme Court, right? It's gone. And that's kind of it, right? If they're going to weaponize the Supreme Court, I mean, they're screaming about packing the court and all this stuff. You may see kind of the last major institution that was supposed to be immune to a lot of this start to crumble, right? This may be the beginning of this. So here, let's listen to AOC over the weekend with Chuck Todd.
I think what we need to do is show the American people that when they give the Democratic Party power and when they actually do vote for us, that we will be using and we are willing to use the power that they do give us in order to merit increased expansions in our majority. So in terms of what I think the president's administration should be able to do, we have many ideas. We have some ideas coming from Senator Warren, signed a letter along with 25 other Democratic senators asking President Biden to explore opening healthcare clinics on federal lands.
Whoa, opening healthcare clinics on federal lands. That's interesting. Yeah, so anywhere you have state parks, national parks, like in Arizona, we've got the Grand Canyon and there's national parks up there. So you might be able to go for a hike and an abortion, which will be interesting if that happens. Yeah, because I've represented many people on DUIs out of the Grand Canyon and they go to federal courts, which is up there in Flagstaff. So that's interesting. Hadn't thought about that. Let's see what other ideas they are cooking up.
In red states, in order to help people access the health care and abortion services that they need. We also must, and President Biden did indicate that he was going to start looking into expanding abortion access via the pill, as well as educational efforts henceforth. But also
So the pill is going to be another subject of debate. I think that, didn't Kristi Noem of South Dakota, I think she said that she's going to regulate the prescriptions coming into the state, but then you also now have a conflict between the federal government, which runs the U.S. Postal Service, and the states. And my friends, right, oh my goodness, right, this is what I've been telling you this is going to be happening for quite some time. And we saw this, for those of you who've been around a while, We saw a lot of this start to bubble up between Missouri and the Biden administration over guns, over weapons. Remember when they started passing their draconian bills? Missouri passed a bill that said, if you come in, federal agents, into our state and you try to take our weapons, you're going to be arrested and prosecuted for that. Remember that? And Merrick Garland came out and said, well, you can't really do that. We are the feds and we have supremacy. But you're going to start to see these states in basically open rebellion from the federal government. And that's not a bad thing, because the federal government is the biggest albatross around all of our necks. It's terrible.
What I believe that the president and the Democratic Party needs to come to terms with is that this is not just a crisis of Roe. This is a crisis of our democracy. The Supreme Court has dramatically overreached its authority.
No, they have. No, they have not. Right. All they're doing is they're saying, look, it's such a dumb argument. I don't know how she gets away with this stuff, but my goodness, if the Supreme Court had the authority to pass Roe, well, they've certainly got the authority to undo Roe, right? If you can do it, you can undo it. So how did they have the authority to do this and then not have the authority to undo it? It's a ridiculous argument.
We had two conservative senators in the United States Senate, Senator Manchin and Senator Collins, come out with a very explosive allegation that several Supreme Court justices misled them in their...
Oh, so that's going to be, look at her face. That's a good pause right there. She kind of knows she's full of it right there. Look at that face. She's like, oh God, I can't believe I'm saying this. But it's true. She's saying they lied, that Gorsuch and Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh, they were all lying to her. They said, oh, no, we're not going to touch Roe. No, we love Roe. Yeah, we love abortions, says Amy Coney Barrett. Yeah. No, I just have 7 adopted children and I am a very religious Catholic who goes to church every day. But no, I'm not going to touch Roe. No, vote me on there. And they're like, okay, that sounds great. Thanks for your answer. All right. So here, let's wrap it up with AOC.
During their confirmation hearings and in the lead up to their confirmation, this is a crisis of legitimacy.
Crisis of legitimacy. Okay. In other words, the Supreme Court is illegitimate. So that was AOC. Now, the same type of argument is coming out from Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren, of course, is here. She was on with ABC this week, and she's making the same argument. She's going to be saying, really, she's very upset about this. Now, she's very upset. And you can see it right in that face. Watch as she just unloads about how horrific this is for women across America.
You know, you saw Justice Thomas's concurring opinion, I know, calling on the court to reconsider rulings, striking down state restrictions, contraception, gay marriage. Are you concerned about that? You also heard what the rest of the court said about that.
I am deeply concerned about that. I understand that the rest of the court said, no, we're not going there. But remember how we got to where we are.
How?
When
Tell us.
Roe versus Wade first came down, there was a tiny minority that really put a lot of energy into, in effect, for themselves and for Republicans, putting Roe on the ballot over and over. But on the ballot didn't mean try to get it through the Congress, because they knew they couldn't do that. They're not even close to having national support for that. So instead, it was about getting extremist judges into the United States Supreme Court.
Oh, I see what her argument is. She's saying that the Republicans were trying to ban this legislatively, in other words, through Congress, right, through the legitimate way. That's very interesting. She's making this argument. So the Republicans were trying to cram this. They don't have the support to cram it through legislatively, this is the argument that the Republicans make about what the Democrats did. Okay. The response originally, these people are so sneaky. They take what they're doing and they just, it's the pot calling the kettle black. She is saying right now that the Republicans are trying to prevent women from having abortions because of this opinion. The original reason many people say that Roe was passed in the first place is because Democrats couldn't get their version of abortion through the congressional legislative process. In other words, they wanted to pass abortion. They know that they didn't have popular support to do it, so they went through the courts. That's how we got Roe. Now Warren is saying the reason why we don't have Roe anymore is because the Republicans did that very thing. The Republicans couldn't get Roe uncodified or codified in opposite directions, so then they went through the process and got the judges, right? But that's exactly how Roe came about in the first place. It wasn't through legislation. So they're undoing that now. And so, Elizabeth, now you can go back in your congressional body and pass it. Okay, if you have the legislative support now, you can go do it. Let's go back.
And let's see how much credibility those justices have now. Replay the tapes of one after another saying that Roe versus Wade is settled law and no one disturbs settled law.
And I was going to ask you about that,
Senator. As soon as they can count the numbers, they toss it out.
And Senator Susan Collins, who voted for Justice Kavanaugh.
So they're going to essentially try to say that these judges are illegitimate because they lied, right? And I watched these hearings. Okay, they are very, very careful with their words, right? They didn't lie about anything. Now they didn't tell them what they wanted to hear, and they were careful about it. And they didn't communicate, their idea that, yes, when I get on the court, I'm definitely overturning Roe versus Wade, because there's plausible deniability about whether they were even feeling that in the first place, right? You can believe them. Now, it hasn't shown up in front of our court yet, so we haven't had time to weigh those issues. And when we do, yes, I'm going to apply the Constitution to it. And people said, well, but you understand that Roe is precedent. They said, yeah, Roe is precedent. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's been precedent since 19 whenever. And you understand that. Yes, I do understand that. And Amy Coney Barrett got asked about super precedent, and she said, well, I don't think it is super precedent because you're asking me about it here today. You're asking me a lot of Roe questions. That means it can't possibly be super precedent because you're not asking about other questions about other cases that are super precedent.
As well as Joe Manchin have said they were misled. Do you think the process should change now? Of confirming justices.
She's fired up.
Look, I understand that Justice Kavanaugh, for example, I don't know what he said to Senator Collins. I wasn't in the room. But I do know this, that the Republicans have been very overt about trying to get people through the court who didn't have a published record on Roe, but who they knew, wink, wink, nod, nod, were going to be extremists on the issue of Roe versus Wade.
Extremists. So it's like, okay, the Democrats aren't doing that. Like you think that Ketanji is going to, I don't know, vote with Republicans, vote with the conservative caucus. Like, this is why you pick judges, right? This is why you win elections, is so you can pick judges to influence policy. It's not extremist at all. So if it was extremist, Miss Warren, so you're saying the country was extremist in terms of abortion policy since the founding all the way up until 1950, whenever? And then suddenly became unextremist, and now we're going to extremist again? Hey, that's not how this works.
And that is exactly what we have ended up with. This court has lost legitimacy. They have...
there it is again. Illegitimate, meaning they have to pack the court or basically disband it at all, right? And we've already gone through this in our history, folks. FDR tried this crap back when he was in charge, and he tried to pack it, and man, it really turned into a big problem for the court. I mean, the court started flip-flop big time. Everybody on the court was like, oh, shoot, we don't want to lose our jobs. And so they started just rubber stamping all FDR's policies. You got all these letter alphabet government programs that came out of the great, the New Deal. And that laid down the framework for the big burgeoning government, because those judges got their pantalones in a bunch because they thought that their majority, their group was at risk. All right, so that's Elizabeth. Let's wrap up with her.
Burned whatever legitimacy they may still have had after their gun decision on the issue of Roe versus Wade.
Listen to how angry she is.
And that is exactly what we have ended up with. This court has lost legitimacy. They have burned whatever legitimacy they may still have had after their gun decision, after their voting decision, after their union decision. They just took the last of it and set a torch to it with the Roe versus Wade opinion. Wow. I believe we need to get some confidence back in our court, and that means we need more justices on the United States Supreme Court.
Whoa! And I know that's something you support.
Whoa! It's happened before.
Pack it.
We've done it before. We need to do it again.
Whoa, she wants to pack it, baby. She wants to stuff that court full. And wow, okay, so that's Elizabeth Warren. Supreme Court, illegitimate, full of extremists, needs to be reshaped entirely by the Democrats. And that's okay. Well, so that's the reaction, my friends. Now, we are going to talk about what took place. It's a little bit more serious in terms of reaction. Those are from the politicians. That's from, the celebrities. It's from the Warrens and the AOCs. But remember, and I don't want to gloss over this, okay? We suffered a second insurrection in this country, okay? It wasn't in America. Well, it wasn't America, but it was more specifically in Arizona. Also starts with an A, okay? And this was a pretty serious ordeal. And we're going to unpack here exactly what happened. Take a look. This is the Arizona Capitol building. And I was out there on front a Saturday night about 7 o'clock. This incident happened on Friday. And if you'll notice, this is the beautiful Capitol building that we love and cherish here and that we don't want insurrected, okay, by anybody. And what you can notice is there are police officers there and there's no barricades there right there on Friday night. But after the abortion ruling came out, there were some people who came to Arizona and, they sort of sounded like this. This woman, I don't think was here in Arizona, but there was a lot of this activity really on Friday night. I didn't see that here in Arizona on Saturday night. But this is pretty loud. You can see there's a lot of this type of behavior going on. This video has several million views. Okay, probably more than that, many millions at this point in time. We're gonna have to see this. This man was on the street and he was trying to interface with some of the protesters, just to dialogue with them. He wanted to learn more about their position on the issues. And so this is part of the insurrection, right? Remember the J6 committee? They play a lot of these videos. So let's just take a look here and see what's going on here. Let's see how this conversation is going. Here.
My choice! My choice! My choice! My choice! My choice! My choice! She's touching me. She's touching me.
Okay, see that face right there? Very angry person. And oh my goodness. Yeah, so strange things happening there out on the streets. That man is very brave. I was not that brave. Okay, I was not willing to go into the dungeon of doom here, but that's what we got.
My choice! My choice! My choice!
Okay, so you had enough of that. We've all had enough of that. Now that was several million videos on the internet, but what I would like to do is just do the old compare and contrast here, okay? We had an insurrection on January 6th that resulted in hundreds of people being charged and basically virtually the end of America. We had a very similar thing happen again here over the weekend, and it's just tragic. I'm barely just able to talk about it. I've been recovering all weekend, and now I think we can get through it. Let's break it down. So we saw the protests. Now I've cataloged this into the same different elements that you get in a insurrection case, like we saw at the Capitol. And so think about this in terms of criminal elements, right? What do you have to prove in order to convict somebody of a crime? If it's a theft charge, what do you have typically, right? It's a person that has intent to take a piece of property outside of the store without paying for it, right? You can kind of look up the elements. Oh, 4 elements. A person taking something with the intent to do it beyond the register. Okay, that's a theft, all right? Or shoplifting, right? Whatever. Those are the elements. How do we talk about it now in terms of insurrection? Well, we know from our J6 that we've got different elements. We've got protesters, okay? We saw that lady and many others. So we got that element. We're also going to take a look at some of the other elements that we saw in the January 6th insurrection and see if they exist in the Arizona 2.0 insurrection with the Roe versus Wade abortion keepers. We're going to unpack all of that. And we see interference with democracy, another pretty big element. We have criminal damage, another big element. We saw a lot of that on J6. We saw a lot of interference with democracy as well. We also know that many politicians were upset about this. And so one of the elements of insurrection is you got to have angry politicians. And let's see if we can just add all of it up together. We also have the Arizona DPS, which would sort of be analogous to like the FBI. They're responding. All right, let's see if we really do have an insurrection. First, the first element. Well, the first element I think is important to take a look at what was happening to our poor state senators. This gentleman here during Insurrection 2.0 was just sitting in the Senate, and he actually posted this at 9:22 p.m. on 9/24. The Arizona Senate was in session at this time, and he posted this. It's what was this, Friday evening? We're all just sitting around. We just wrapped up the show. You know, it's been like a nice, easy week, Friday night. He says, riots at the Capitol caused us to evacuate the Senate floor. Whoa! Law enforcement contained in the crowd with tear gas. And we have now moved to a hearing room to finish our business. We will do voice votes. Everyone is safe. It sounds like this guy's basically like Mike Pence 2.0. I mean, he's like racing out of the Senate chamber, dunking into a, secret chamber in order to survive. Here's another one from Cali. Well, actually, let's take a look at what happened in the Senate first. So here is the group of people fleeing the Senate chambers. I mean, here it is. Here is the president fan. We have the reader, Heather Faney's here. Christina West is over here. I mean, my goodness, this almost looks like the scene of the Capitol building on January 6th, that fateful day. That guy almost took that podium out. So here, let's watch this one. 21 seconds. Content warning. This is going to be pretty serious.
Please listen. We are going to recess. We're going into recess right now, okay? We have a security problem outside. Members, please go. Stop.
You hear the noise?
We're recessed.
You hear the noise? They're pounding. You can hear them. And we're in recess, and they flee the Senate chamber. Now, I'm looking closely. I don't see a podium here for the insurrectionists to steal. But maybe there's a gavel. I mean, I'm a little embarrassed here. I was born and raised in Arizona, and I'm not real sure how we govern ourselves. Like, does the podium give you the power at our Capitol, or does the gavel? I don't know. Maybe it's the chair. So whatever the insurrectionists are after, we're going to have to figure that out. But hopefully they all get prosecuted. And the police had to respond to some of this. Here's a video of this one. Now, I was there on Saturday. This was on Friday night. And on Saturday, they actually barricaded all this off. So the police there, they put a bunch of fencing up. And the insurrectionists tore down the fencing the next night. But let's see what's happening here from the outside before we take a look at what's going on the inside. There are these police shooting off tear gas. All right, there it is. And I was telling you that it reminds me of that scene from Terminator 2. Remember Terminator 2, which is the better of the Terminators? Like, it's basically the only Terminator that really matters in the series. I mean, number one, obviously, for foundational purposes, but after T2, I mean, what did they do with that series? It really, really upsets me because it was so good. But anyways, there is that scene when Arnold comes out and he says back to Connor, John Connor says, "Wait, don't kill anyone." And he looks around at him and he says, "Trust me." And John Connor knows Arnold's going to save the day. And he goes out there and he takes care of the police presence. And he had a tear gas launcher that looked just like this. All right. So that was going on. I think I heard that guy at the very end say, "Oh, my foot. Oh, got my foot." And so I don't know what that was. Now, there was a lot of graffiti there, right? There's a lot of criminal damage as well. So clearly, obviously, right, look, protesters, check. Got that one. Okay, we can put that in the recipe. Put that in the stew pot. We also have interference with democracy. Okay, we saw the senators fleeing the chamber, and we've got evidence of that from Warren Peterson, and as we'll see, Miss Townsend here. And Townsend also says, she posted this on Twitter back then, says, "We're currently there being held hostage inside the Senate building due to members of the public trying to breach our security. We smell tear gas, and the children of one of the members are in the office sobbing with fear. I expect a J24 committee to be created immediately." You see what she did there? It's so ridiculous. Zulu's here. I see Zulu in the chat. Zulu says the people yelling are MAGA infiltrators. Yeah. Right. I know. These arguments are ridiculous, right? This whole thing is ridiculous. These are political protests that happen. in America. Okay, it's better than having civil wars with each other. We have these little skirmishes. Ideally, people aren't overly criminalized and standards are equally applied so that when you become violent or break property, you are now charged with crimes, right? But unfortunately, the standards are applied unequally in this country. Certain people of a political disposition are prosecuted, others are not, right? So that's where it stops becoming kind of jokey and funny. But the point of this is that you can see where a lot of the same conduct just matches up. Interference with democracy, got it. Criminal damage, got it. Why is there criminal damage? Well, take a look at what the Arizona DPS posted for us. And I think I've got, well, here's their statement. So let's pull this open. And they said, preliminary protests have happened. They brought 7,000 to 8,000 people to the Arizona Capitol. This began as a peaceful protest, turned into anarchical and criminal actions by masses of splinter groups. As groups realized the state legislature was in session, they attempted to breach the doors of the Senate and force their way into the building. The violence of their efforts literally shook the building and terrified citizens and lawmakers who occupied it inside. As the glass doors bowed from attempts of forced entry, the occupants were instructed to move to secure locations. Due to the direct threat, troopers took immediate actions and used tear gas. As the riotous behavior was taking place, concurrent and spillover criminal misconduct and criminal damage occurred in the form of defacing state memorials. Troopers exercised patience, the plaza was cleared, and so on. Now, these are the photographs. I actually clipped some of these from the graffiti. And that's the Capitol. Here, right, you can see there's sort of it's like a park area. If you're a member, I made a video about it. I was walking around out there. But here, right, F SCOTUS, okay, somebody put on there. That's criminal damage, my friends. Illegal insurrectionary conduct. Here's another one. Abort the court. Look at this, on a veteran memorial. Can you believe this? So I'm looking forward to the committee that's going to come and address all of this conduct. Here is another memorial, just graffiti all over the place, just totally debauched. And another one. A lot of these came over from Antifa Watch. And there's even more videos and photographs of sort of the mayhem and the madness. But here's another one, abort the court, on these memorials. And so there was a little bit of, tomfoolery going on out there. But that, was this I think I got the tear gas one. Yeah. And so that's going to be, I guess, that's Arizona's own insurrection. Now, we're not going to get any hearings on that, of course, because one political party gets punished in this country, the other does not. And the real question that we've had for some time is, really, how is this impacting all of the polls? And I briefly wanted to run through some of these with you before we jump into the surprise January 6th hearing, and then the Pelosi elbow. And we've got, so those two quick things, and then we'll jump into your questions and your comments and all of your thoughts over on locals as well. And so we'll get to those here in a minute. But first, polls. So I wanted to show you these sort of two competing polls. There was one interesting one. This guy is a good blogger. I disagree with him about 80% of the time, but I still read him anyways. He's all a pundit, and he posted this on Hot Air. And he tells us that there's a big surge for Democrats, okay? And you may have seen some of this, right? The Dems surged to a 7-point lead on the generic ballot. And, this is something that we've been talking about sort of on the morning walk and talks, is what are the consequences of this? Are the Democrats going to be energized, or are the Republicans also going to be energized? Because the Republican Party, the GOP, the consequences of being a Republican are now being actualized. Sort of being a Republican a lot of the time is a disappointing experience because they sort of lose and they're feckless and they don't really have a message. And right, people weren't excited about the GOP until like Trump came along, honestly, right? It was sort of like, oh gosh, McCain and Romney. It's like, oh, great. And who's going to be next? Ted Cruz. Okay. Right. And so it's sort of getting tired of that. But then they have a big win, right? It's like second look at Trump, maybe. Maybe they're energized as well. So how does all this play out? Who knows? But all a pundit said, my God, the backlash is real. Their red tsunami is only going to become a red kiddie pool. Well, maybe not so fast, right? That's what a lot of the media is having you believe. But NPR and others who are putting out these polls are kind of mincing the numbers a little bit, right? They're sort of picking and they're selectively choosing dates. He says there's kind of a month missing here, right, between April and June. So you may have to remember that the Alito opinion was leaked previously, and so that might actually change some of the polls. And so, you know, the idea here is that the congressional Democratic ballot is not actually all that much higher, right? So like here it is, a 10-point swing post Dobbs might mean that it's just illusory, according to this guy, right? Jonathan Robinson here. So he's sort of speculating that there may be a bump, but maybe not a consequential bump. And they're also talking about primary polls, right? So here is AOC now, who's now saying that we're not even really that interested in the actual general elections. We're also going to be focused on the primaries. AOC and the Democrats want to get rid of primary candidates who don't support their take on abortion. Here she is.
Also, if you live in a blue area, when people say go vote, that should include primary elections too.
Yeah, vote out the non-aborters.
The thing that a lot of people don't like to talk about is the fact that not every Democrat is pro-choice, okay? So the ones that aren't, we really need to reassess if it's appropriate for them to continue to serve in 2022.
Yeah, so she's saying that basically we're going to boot out all of the non-conforming Democrats. You know, they're not playing on our team, and so they've got to go. So that might also change some of the equation here in terms of how these elections work, because now you might be getting, right, let's say AOC and that wing of the party is successful in bumping off a lot more of the mainstream Democrats. That may ultimately lead to consequences for them at the polls, because the general public may not like those radical candidates. Would be one idea. Here is the other story now on the polls. This one is saying that Biden's are way, way down, right? And so now you have this interesting thing where you maybe have like an upswing in the generic ballot because Democrats are angry, but Biden is dragging them down so badly that it's inconsequential, right? So here, right, interest rates, gas prices going up and up and up. Biden now hitting a new low, according to the CBS poll. This one came out yesterday on Sunday. Overall, President Biden's job approval rating is now 41%, marking the lowest ever of his presidency. So now you might say, okay, well, you've got this red wave, this surge because of the diminished performance of our diminished president, but you also have to juxtapose that with the enthusiasm from the sort of the pro-abortion lobby that is all fired up now. So it's an interesting question. I thought I had a clip of something else I didn't pick up in here. But Biden's problems are really bad on basically everything, right? Gun policy's bad. Here, this was a comment that I shared, I think elsewhere. But look at this, CBS News poll, June 22 to 24. Right now, how much of a priority should each of these issues be for the country? Okay, and this is going to be a good segue right into the J6 stuff, because look where J6 is. Investigating January 6, 2022. It's down here at the bottom. Okay, 33% say it's a high priority. Of the high priority column, it is the lowest of the high priority variables here on this list. In other words, everything else on this list is more important than January 6th, okay? Economy is more important, inflation, Russia, Ukraine, immigration, abortion now, gun policy, climate change, crime, and the coronavirus outbreak. All of those are more important, have more higher priority voters than investigating the January 6th fake, garbage, useless select committee, right? Which, of course, may exactly be why they have sprung upon us another hearing tomorrow, in fact. And I don't even know what time it is. Let's see if they scheduled it on YouTube yet, because I believe that I have their channel saved here. And they don't even have it scheduled, it looks like. Ugh, these weirdos. All right, well, let's take a look at what they said. So the New York Times gave us this post. And they say, breaking news, the House committee investigating the J6 attack on the Capitol abruptly scheduled a session for Tuesday afternoon, so that's tomorrow, to hear, quote, recently obtained evidence and witness testimony. Ooh, that sounds spicy. Now, I have no idea what it is. They are not, this is an unscheduled proceeding. And I think largely this is a result of, well, they're probably trying to goose up some interest. Oh, who's going to be the witnesses, right? Oh, it's going to be like an encore, right? After the comedian leaves, he comes back out. You go, oh, wow. What else do they have? We'll see if anybody tunes in. As we saw with the poll previously, not that many people are all that interested in it. Now, this is a quick story I wanted to cover. This guy came out, Breitbart got the exclusive on this one, and that's probably because he works there. But Ken Klukowski, this guy actually works for Breitbart. If you scroll down to the bottom of this, apparently he works there. He writes about legal affairs at Breitbart News. Okay, so just keep that in mind, like the sourcing here. But it says attorney, he's accusing the House Select Committee of saying that they falsely accused him of participating in the plot, right? And this is something that is actually, nuts and bolts. It's sort of cut and dry. And lawyers use this stuff in order to prove these points. This is why we interview police officers. This is why we interview investigators in criminal cases. We want to know what happened, have it all on transcripts so that we can say definitively when people are taking us out of context or when they're mincing words, when they're manipulating what we actually said. So this guy says he told the committee that he disagreed with the theory that President Pence had sole discretion to unilaterally reject the electors, right? He's saying this was my position, and the committee is misinterpreting that position. However, in the fifth public hearing last week, Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney suggested that he was in fact part of a scheme to reduce the election results, right? And this is the transcript from the testimony itself, where they come out and they read from the teleprompter and they say, the committee has learned from Mr. Clark that he was working with Ken Klukowski and blah, blah, blah. And they drafted this letter to Georgia and all this stuff. Well, in fact, Klukowski said on Sunday, he supported the opposite of the action. Okay, so the committee was actually sort of taking stuff out of context, and he wrote this response. He says, the J6 committee falsely accused me on Thursday of being a go-between. That accusation is false, both in its broad outlines and in detail. I've cooperated with the committee. Information produced. He says, I highlight several points of correction. First, I was not sent to the DOJ to act as a link between John Eastman. Didn't do it. Second, I testified to the committee. I disagreed with John Eastman's theory. Third, I never briefed or advised President Pence or his staff. And fourth, while it is correct that I assisted in the draft letter, that letter was Clark's idea, dictated and outlined by him, right? So this guy actually did go and sit down with the J6 committee, and they're taking his words out of context. And he's saying none of that is true at all. And if this were an actual proceeding, a defense lawyer would be able to make those arguments for him right there in the proceeding. But we don't know. Right now it's he said, she said. We don't get to judge anybody's credibility. They are taking little statements of his out of context from his deposition and then shoving that down all of our gullets in America. Now, this is a big thing because this could actually be sort of the beginning of, the Pandora's box. I would hope that it would be, right? They've done thousands of interviews. And my guess is that most of those interviews weren't very willful, right? People were sort of unhappy about doing them. And if they are taking other people out of context, you might see a snowball effect start. If he's willing to stand up and speak out and say, they lied about me, maybe you get somebody else who also does the same thing. And I don't know about you, but every single witness that I've been watching up there, most of them look like they're pretty petrified, right? Like they just got hauled in front of Congress to answer questions about some stuff that they don't really want to be answering questions about. And the ones who don't have legal experience know that they're sort of facing the comb of the J6 committee, combing through all of their assets, all of their records, all of their electronics, all of their emails, all of their text messages, right? It's having a little dictator breathing down your spine. And that comes in the form of Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. So now he is sort of, bold enough to stand up and said, they lied about me. What if there's somebody else who also is willing to stand up and say they lied about them? In addition, this guy served in the Trump administration and he writes about legal stuff for the affairs. Says, I cooperated with the committee because I understood that its mission was about finding the truth. Yeah, right. But its statements yesterday do no such thing. I call on the committee to release their transcripts of both my committee depositions so the American people can see an accurate and truthful account of my activities, not the distorted and demonstrably false narrative now being spun. Right? And this is sort of the key here, I think, to this whole conversation. The January 6th committee, you're in possession of the evidence. Okay, so you have the obligation to now disprove him Okay, he's saying it didn't happen that way. All you have to do is release all of the transcripts, and we can judge for ourselves. Why don't you? Why don't you turn it over to the DOJ? Maybe because there's stuff in there you don't want everybody to see. I think that's probably the case. So, all right, this guy is, maybe the breaking of the dam, so to speak, of people who are saying they're actually lying about me, right? My deposition didn't match anything that they said in that. And there he is. So shout out to Ken Klukowski, lawyer. And he should know this stuff. Like, this is why we interview and do depositions and get stuff on the record. So when somebody takes it out of context and puts it in their little high school book report for America, you can say, that's not accurate. I never said that. You guys are liars. So that's good stuff there. Now, final thing before we jump into your comments and your super chats and your comments over from our community on Locals is, of course, the Pelosi Elbow. We have to unpack this one. When I first watched it, I didn't see it, but I wasn't really looking for it. So the Post Millennial, who's a great follow on Twitter, said, wow, what did Nancy Pelosi just do to the daughter of the new GOP Congresswoman, Mayra Flores, who just won a surprising victory in Texas? And so she brings her family over to the House of Representatives to take a picture with Pelosi. Sounds like a nice thing to do. Bring your kids, bring your husband, get that photo up. Now, what did little Nancy Pelosi have to do here? We're going to watch this one time all the way through. Pay close attention to this right elbow. Here it is. We're going to watch it one through, and then we'll just have to pause it.
We wanted our pastor to come into the picture. Pastor?
Oh, it's there. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Get out of here. Oh, that slow motion's good. I've not seen the slow motion. See, I told you, the Post Millennials, like, look at that slow motion. There's physical movement there. Oh, that's, I think that, I don't know if that's racism or Republicanism, or she's a Republicanist or something, but look at this. One more time, fast and slow. Slow-mo, frame by frame. Yes. I was going to say freeze frame. I had a lot of difficulty with that one.
We wanted our pastor to come into the picture. Pastor?
Whoa! Yeah, there it is.
Pastor?
Ah! That poor little girl. That poor little girl got shoved out of the way by our Speaker of the House, Nancy Demon Face Pelosi. Oh, yeah. Clear as day. Oh, my goodness. Yikes. So I don't know what that's about, but, that's our Speaker of the House. All right. So, my friends, now that is it. Let's take a look at the comments, the super chats, all your supporting help here. We have our member mastermind coming up on Thursday, June 30th. So if you're not already a member, a couple places to do that at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Awesome community over there. Many people chatting away. John Q Simples here. NY Renal MD's in the house. Good to see you. Me Love Dogs. JC, the Music Man's in the house. Tremendous is over there, and many others. And so Molly Pop's there over on YouTube. If you join up, you get a nice little symbol in the chat. And of course, you support our work there. We've got ZZ the Boxing Cat here. Mr. J Bug, K Bean, of course, is a member. Jenny B is also a member. We have Melanie Schwartz drop in a super chat. Thank you, Melanie. We're going to get to that one real quick. But we have our member mastermind. Okay, so if you are a member on any one of those forums, we will be communicating with you in a private live stream on Thursday. And I wanted to make a quick comment about this. Okay, listen. If you're somebody who can't afford to join our communities, okay, like I know times are tough right now. And if you cannot afford to pay, please send me an email. Okay, send me an email with your Locals username. I will happily make you a free user. Okay, I do not want anybody to be shut out because of money, right? My email is robert@rrlawaz.com. Don't have to tell me why, don't have to explain yourself, but if you cannot afford to support the show on Locals, I will happily make you a free member, okay? I got an email from a beautiful woman over the weekend who said something like, I love your content. I'm elderly. I am on a fixed income and I can't afford to join your community. And I'm feeling really bummed out about that. I do not want that at all to happen at all. Okay. Just send me an email. I don't care if there's 100 or 1,000 emails. I'll answer them and I will do what I can to make that happen. Okay. So I don't want that to be a thing. Now, a lot of that can be done because there are people who don't pay the minimum, right? Some people will support a lot of other, they'll pay more than that bare minimum. And so thank you to you. Okay. Now, you know who you are also. Some of you pay the 5 or the 10, or some of you pay $15 or $12 or $7 or whatever. Okay. All of that is going to support those free users who just need it right now. Okay. And I know, like, times are tough, man. Gas is, that $5 can get you, 2/4 of a gallon of gas. So I mean that, right? Send me an email. I have zero problem at all doing that for you, but I can't do it on YouTube. I can do it on locals. So, okay. So enough of that. Now here, as I mentioned, where are we going? Oh, yes, to your comments. Okay, I got sidetracked on this here. So let's jump on over into the locals comments. Speaking of the locals comments, and this one was a good one, a good update for a sad update. But here it is from Molly Pop Inc. And Molly Pop, her sweet baby boy, Calvin, got hit by a car. We talked about this on locals, but we got an update. Happy Monday, everybody. Says just another day of political chaos, but on a slightly different note. Here is an update of a dog. Just got back about a dog. It's your dog. Just got back from the animal hospital to get this guy. We tried to save the leg for a little over a week, but he had just lost too much of it. But he's okay. He's not going to have to deal with going back there every day anymore. What a nightmare, but I still got my dog. So here's Tripod Calvin. That's a good... you got some good energy there, Molly Pop Inc. What a good boy. What a handsome boy. And he's just the toughest boy ever. And he is a handsome boy indeed. So shout out to Calvin. Calvin he's going to be spry. He's going to be frolicking around in no time. No doubt about that. So shout out to Molly Pop. And so let me do a quick refresh over here. And on YouTube, I saw a couple super chats come in. The Cougar Experience sent one in earlier before the show started. No question. Thank you, the Cougar Experience. Appreciate that one. Mark Owens said, good evening, Robert in chat. I think the two-party political system was downsized decades ago. Republicans and Dems have been in bed together for some time. I think you're onto something there, Mark. And I've sort of joked about it here. Like, the Republicans will go in and they'll ransack the Treasury for 8 years. And once they get fat and slobbery, they need a little vacation because people are going to get mad if you keep eating. It's like at the buffet, that guy, you're like, will you leave some for everybody else here? So the Republicans, they got to go they got to go take their nap. And then the Democrats come up to the trough and the public is just like filling the trough up. Here you go. Here you go. Here's more of our money. Here's more of our resources, blah, blah, blah. And when they get fat and happy, it goes back over to the Republicans, and around and around and around we go. And it's pretty tedious because we're paying for it. Wood Precision Arms says, you kick butt, Robert. Best legal analysis on the U-books. Why do you think the DOJ is going after the radical leftist groups all of a sudden? Midterms, probably. Well, yeah, they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place now because crime, as we saw, is a major concern in America, right? It's like at the top of the list. It's creeping up and up and up. So all of that defund the police talk, right? They've got to come back to sort of being this party that is, cares about suburban moms and cares about crime because it's gotten too bad. And the pendulum swings both ways. At one point it goes sort of, all cops are amazing heroes and, no cop can do anything wrong. And we got to support the police. And it goes all the way over to defund the police. And the political parties just kind of, you catch them as they're swinging back and forth to some degree. And here, right, we just had in 2020 an entire year essentially of defund the police. And so now we're swinging back this other direction and they will be, strong law enforcement people to some degree. We've seen this happen. I mean, the Democrats did this back in the 1980s, right? They were really tough on crime and the Republicans were. We had all those crime bills in the 1980s. So it's just a sort of it's the new current thing, right? Carlos Gasper here with the super chat, but no question. Thank you, Carlos. Bear Ashby also says, the scales of justice is so off, they fell on the floor. I know. They do. You see that scale of justice back here, over here? Trying to keep that thing balanced. except when it's our clients. Then we want it to tip towards our side so that we're victorious, always. So thank you for that, Bear Ashby. Melanie Schwartz says Pelosi's office responded and said she was just trying to make sure the little girl was in the picture. Did she actually say that? That can't be right. Did she actually respond to that? That's Pelosi responded to photo. Are you serious? Let's see here. Pelosi claims, oh my gosh. Yeah, here's from Newsweek. Let's pull this up. Wow, amazing. Pelosi says she was worried that her daughter was hidden in the photo, right? Like, oh, she was going to be behind me. Like, oh, get out of here. Get in front of the photo. That's not true. She didn't want her near her. I don't think so. Look, that you don't elbow nudge somebody like that. You give him the old little, you give him, look, you saw that there. That was ridiculous. Look, if you're going to be nudging a little girl like that in, a dress, she's all done up for her mom, right? You give him a little shoulder tap. Okay. So like if this is the little girl's shoulder, like right down here, you say, oh, excuse me. Oh, like just, come up here, right? Oh, like you guide them. Oh, come right up here. You don't say like this, get out of my way to the front of the camera. Nobody can see you. You don't do that. That's ridiculous. That was a shove. Yeah, 100% shoved her. Look at that right there. Shoved her probably because she's a Republican from Texas. She didn't want to get infested with ultra mega cooties or something. Feels pretty racist to me. All right, well, that's that one. Thank you for that one. That's amazing, Melanie. Thank you for that explanation. Amazing. Sad to see how news outlets are misinterpreting this. Oh, yeah, right. All right, that was from Miss Melanie Schwartz. Ronnie Cole with another one says an ambulance chaser should have been all over that whiplash case. Yeah, yes. What was I talking about? I don't know what the heck I was talking about, Ronnie Cole. But yeah, ambulance chasers. My goodness. We had one of our lawyers got hit by a car. He did. I was just talking to him about it today. He's all right. He's got a couple broken ribs. He's walking to the gym. Got hit by a car. Ugh. My office called me and hey, do you have a minute? Yeah, what's up? Yeah, he got hit by a car. He's in the hospital. What? So he's okay. He was walking to the gym, broke a couple ribs. He's going to be okay. But man, I was thinking we were talking about that today. It's like, lawyers and personal injury claims and all of that stuff, Ronnie. Yeah. So he's okay. He's okay. That's why we were laughing about it today. Okay. We were both laughing about it. We're like, dude, I'm like, are you like an Avenger? What do you mean you got hit by a truck and they left you home? They let you get out of the hospital that day. What are you talking about? This is crazy. So anyways, he's a good sport about it, but man, it's crazy things can happen. So you got to be careful out there. People are crazy. All right. And so that came in from Ronnie Cole. Shout out to Ronnie. Thank you, Ronnie. We have EXSFD Lieutenant. Did you ever notice the following elbow? The kid stepped right back to where she was standing. Basically, F you Skeletor. She did. Yeah. Look, the kid didn't buy it, okay? The kid didn't step out in front and then suddenly, spring into action. Oh, I got it, right? Thanks for the photo. Thanks for the tip. No, not at all. Not at all. 3 girlies over on YouTube, on Locals, says, Robert, I never thought about that. You really brought up the idea that it would be less expensive to pay for and provide access to abortions. Yeah, I think so. Wouldn't it be cheaper? Companies don't want to pay for maternity leave. They won't even pay paternity leave. Never mind that, less children on a family insurance plan would cost less. Also, it would be less sick leave for moms if their kids get sick. Yeah. So I can definitely see why they think it's financially in their best interest to pay for abortion and travel. Now, my next concern, what happens when there is a complication from the abortion? Can there be any repercussion for the company? I would suspect that they just waive that out the wazoo, right? Just like any I'd say medical procedure like that the company pays for, they're going to be covered, the company pays for your healthcare. So if you go and, you get a bad doctor's visit, their insurance and all of their liability coverage is going to cover it. And I think the employer is going to be immune from that negligence that would come from the medical provider. So I think the same thing. But yeah, I mean, are you kidding me? Yeah, okay, 10 days of what, recovery time? I don't know, like, I don't know what they're offering here, but I would guess it's going to be less substantive than a full-blown maternity package in terms of costs and in terms of time, right? I'd have to guess that. So I don't think there will be any repercussions for the employees. I think for the company, I think it's just a windfall. Rob, did you see the bricks on Van Buren and 3rd Avenue? I did. Yeah, I did see those. I mean, I didn't see them personally, but I saw the link to them, and I don't know what that area is. So I have a scooter, the electric scooter that I drive around downtown Phoenix, and it's a ton of fun, by the way. If you haven't got one of these electric scooters, they're a ton of fun. I didn't see them personally, but I did see the image, right? And there were these bricks that just sort of showed up right on the corner of Van Buren and 3rd, which is not far from downtown. Downtown's like 15th Avenue. I mean, it is kind of far, like, but I guess if the protests march downtown and maybe over to the federal courts, it may have gotten them. Good to see you here. JohnQSimple.com. Molly Pop says, the founder of Planned Parenthood. Yeah, so I'm not going to read this, obviously, because it comes from Margaret Sanger, and she wants to exterminate people, many of them of a certain demographic. Disgusting. But that's the savior of Planned Parenthood. So thank you for Molly Pop on that one. Former LEO is here. Says, I live in California, and the repeal of Roe versus Wade will have zero impact in California. Right. Because they're just going to go all the way up to the maximum level, right? I mean, they're going to go all the way up to as far as the law will allow them to go. So, and they can go pretty far. So he says it's a giant vegan nothing burger, which sounds disgusting. I live in the red part of California, up in the mountains. Well, you guys should secede. California is too big for its britches. I'd like to see California broken up. And I'd like to see some beachfront property in Arizona. In fact, I think we should take over San Diego. We'll just push all the way into the sea. We can do it. We'll have to work on that. All right. I know John Q's here. He's from Arizona. So Molly Pop says, I'm willing to put money down that it was a Democrat that hit my dog. Probably. See how violent and insane they are? It's probably yelling at her, at Calvin, something like, down with the patriarchy, down with the caninarchy, something like that. Oh, you're a male dog? He's white too. I mean, your dog is as white as can be, by the way. Look at all that privilege. Where'd the picture go? It's at the bottom. Groucho Cat Lady says, remember when they mandated vaccines for our military? Well, TRICARE in the military does not provide or pay for abortions. Not a word. New York governor is all over the mainstream media saying New York will pay all transportation costs for anyone who wants an abortion. California adding funding to do the same. Lloyd Austin doing the same thing. Defense Secretary saying, we're going to continue to provide seamless access to abortion. Yeah, that makes sense too. Of course they want that. Yeah, they don't want pregnant soldiers. It's expensive, man. A lot of work. C Rose says, Rob, does a child have standing to bring suit for battery? Have you read the cave allegory? Overturning Roe and the people rioting over it seems to be analogous to me. Did you see people fighting the LAPD over the decision? LOL, it's perfectly legal there. Yeah. Have you thought about the locals? Have you thought about a locals con law course? 2 shows in a row. T1 is better than T2. Oh, what did you just say? What? T1 is better than T2? All right. So, oh, this is funny. All right. Well, we might have to do a whole live stream on that debacle, because obviously that's not true. All right. So we'll just skip that. We'll save that for probably another weekend, 8-hour live stream on why that's wrong. But here, yeah, I did see this, right? The LAPD, of course, was basically they're fighting their own people. It's like in California, what are you fighting about? It's going to be DoorDash abortions anyways. So what's the problem? But it's just like, it's like the purge, man. They want to just get out there and sort of rant and rave, and they want to, let it all be known that they are part of the current thing. They're fighting to be a part of the current thing, because many people, unfortunately, and I don't say this to be, ultra condescending, but without those current things, what is there? What else is there to do other than just sort of bounce around from topic to topic and be outraged about something, right? Many people get their validation off this stuff. So Yeah, locals con law course. I love con law. It really is a ton of fun. I love constitutional law. My favorite class in law school. I did well in it. Had no problems on the, I just loved it. I love studying it. It's a beautiful document with a ton of logic and a lot of brilliance, which is why I get so irritated when people dump all over it. And so see, here's Calvin, white as can be. Look at all that privilege. And everybody's giving him some loves. And so that was over from our locals community. Let's do a quick refresh here as we jump over to YouTube. SSFD. Did you notice the elbow kid stepped right back? Yeah. So she didn't get scooted out of there, right? Just didn't get scooted on out of the way. Woods Precision Arms says, here is $10 to elderly who can't afford it. There you go. Okay, so if you are one of those people who says, I can't become a member for whatever reason, you've got some of that covered from Woods Precision Arms, okay? And I seriously mean that. Send me a DM, send me an email. I don't want anybody to be kept out over this, right, at all. Thank you for that. Woods Precision Arms for that support. Mr. J-Bug is here also with the dono, also supporting some of that effort. Thank you, Mr. J-Bug. No question from you, but generous. Here, Curtis Bartle says, the best campfire on the net. Are you talking about us, Curtis? I really like that analogy, thinking about this as like a campfire conversation. That's beautiful. That really is beautiful. I often said the dinner table, right? Like we're supposed to sort of get around like a dinner table. We can have some fun. People can have some cocktails and get a little jovial from time to time, but we'll also settle back down and talk about seriousness. And of course, dinner table manners. When we come to the dinner table, you have dinner table manners. We can disagree without being disagreeable. We don't have to drop, all sorts of profanity all over the place. And we can be cordial, like good citizens who want to live in an improved society. And by working together in that society, we can have conversations about how to improve it. But that's also something that I love campfires. I could sit around campfires every night. And I hope to, as I fade into the sunset, be able to do that. But I think that's a beautiful, beautiful analogy, a campfire. We're sitting around the campfire, roasting s'mores, having some fun, talking about some fun stuff. Thank you for that, Curtis. Oil Smoke Jones is here, says, this too shall pass, but the shrillest, loudest, most profane megaphone screeching will not change those big red gas and diesel price signs or put long missing items back on those store shelves. That's beautiful. It's 100% true. That was from Oil Smoke Jones. It's right? You can be as upset as you want about this thing, but, for most people, they're looking at their bank accounts. They're looking at their gas tanks. They're filling up for $100, a tank. It's really consequential. So yes, maybe from a principled level, they're concerned about abortion and where that goes. And maybe they're buying the big narrative that this is going to be sort of, like a Handmaid's Tale or whatever that is. But I think you're right. Big red gas prices, diminishing bank accounts, those charts going up and up and up, inflation. Woo, it's not good. Doug McMenamin is here. Says, was he run over by Paul Pelosi? We haven't done a deep dive on Paul Pelosi, but I do have a mind map for that one. And, sometimes, my friends, I got to be honest, it's like I start doing this mind mapping and this work. I'm just like sort of zoned out, watching TV or listening to a podcast. And then look at this. This may not even hit the light of day because there's just other stuff going on, right? I put all this work into this thing and yeah, he's been charged. So we'll get some use out of this for sure. Because we want to take a look. I love what I did with the Paul Pelosi thing. Is I basically started filling this out, like some of the things that I would look for if I were defending him. Like if I were defending Paul Pelosi, what am I looking for? All of these things. Accident report. I want any witness statements, 911 calls, the AIR, field sobriety test. I looked up actually the times, and I don't think there was a timing issue. So one of the questions that I had was about the time from the stop, from the accident. So in other words, the length of time between this point, the accident, all the way to the blood test or the blood draw. How much time elapsed? Okay, in Arizona, if there's more than 2 hours between these two things, that's a big problem for the prosecutors. In California, it's 3 hours. And I think he's actually within the 3 hour window. So it's about 2.5 hours. And so if I did the numbers right. So I think he's pretty much okay on that. But here was his mugshot until we got the original mugshot, right? And we'll continue to follow this case. I am licensed in California. Also, we don't take cases out of California. I am licensed there though, and I have represented people on DUIs. Their DUI laws are extremely benign compared to Arizona. So I don't expect there to be many fireworks about this case. I think he'll probably get a reduction, and he'll also probably not serve any jail time because it really is that lenient. All right, and let's see what else. KZ Gypsy Muse says, Rob, so what if this, quote, new evidence of J6 was just filmed by Colbert's staff just last week? It's a good point. I don't know. And how would we know? Like, look, there's a difficulty in not having actual process here, right? In not being able to cross-examine, in not being able to have any of the evidence disclosed to you, right? In a regular criminal case, like, you couldn't do this. This would never happen. It's like, oh, we're in the middle of a trial and we have this brand new witness we're just going to bring out. No. Are you nuts? It's ridiculous. You think this is not Hollywood. That's not how this works. If you don't disclose your witness, then you don't get to use that person because the defense needs the opportunity to interview them and prepare their defense and know what they're talking about. So this, like, whoa, we got new evidence. It's ridiculous Hollywood nonsense. It's not legitimate. This whole thing is illegitimate. Okay, let's go over to locals now. I saw a couple more come in, and it looks like we've got chairman of the board is here. What an amazing Monday. This is going to be the best week ever. Chairman says, hey, Rob, I know you to be a caring person, but also humble, but please put your humbleness aside for a moment. Two things. First, I want you to know your content is great and appreciated. And although I don't have as much time lately to interact, I'm still here, which is good. I miss you. Watching recordings and the live streams. So shout out to Chairman. Also says, second, most importantly, I just listened to you tell the story of the woman who emailed you and your offer to let anyone who can't afford it still be a member of the community. Kudos, my friend. You're a good person. I teared up a little bit when you made that announcement. The world needs more Robert Goveas. When are we going to see another Joey appearance? Oh my goodness. First of all, thank you very much for that, Chairman. You know what, my friend, that's one of the nicest things anybody's ever said to me. And I'm going to get emotional, so I'm not going to do that right now. But man, I can't look. I don't want to see people feel left out of what we're doing here. I just can't do it, man. Like, I can't do it. So I'd rather honestly, like, not do the member stuff if it's like going to be a big problem, but it is fun. We are having some good conversations, and I mean that genuinely. Okay. Send me an email. You don't need to give me a big explanation if you're down on hard times, if you're young or old or whatever. Like, I was in law school and I had no money, none, but I could have used a community. And so if I can help contribute to that in any way, shape, or form, send me an email. No questions asked. I don't even need to think about it. Okay. So that's it. So thank you for that, Chairman. I mean, oh man, thank you for that. Okay. So, and that was from Chairman of the board. He's also here. He says, wow, sharp elbow. Do you think Pelosi has some roller derby experience in her background? Pelosi's been throwing elbows for like 80 years in Congress, ever since day one. She's just throwing elbows. You got to hand it to Pelosi. Okay. She knows how to hold her own. I mean, she's been on there on like top dog for like two centuries now. So she must have some pretty strong elbows. Three Girlie says it was the elbow she had to use to keep her husband, Paul, away from the liquor before he got into his car. She's out of town and he gets popped for a DUI. And so poor Pelosi, she just wanted the child to be in the photograph, obviously. Former LEO says back in the day, if a demonstration became violent with physical or property damage, in consultation with the DA, we could then deem it to be an unlawful assembly. An order to disperse is given usually with a 15-minute limit. And if they didn't disperse, another warning about it being an unlawful assembly, another 15 minutes to leave. And then at the end of the time limit, officers restricted the demonstrators from leaving and all demonstrators arrested, mugshot, and fingerprinted. Court the next morning, they got released with a $20 fine and conditional on not rioting again. Tear gas disperses, but it's not an arrest. Nip it in the bud and fix it forever. That was from former LEO. He was like, you got to do it the right way. All right. And actually go round them up, go get them. We don't need to just book them and, or just shoot tear gas at them. Tremendous says, you got to analyze the Pelosi elbow like you did with the Rittenhouse videos after it happened. Maybe it's not. It's pretty obvious. She looked back at the poor girl and elbowed her. I've drawn my conclusions. Tremendous. Man, Tremendous has been around since like the beginning. Kyle Rittenhouse was one of the first videos that we did that popped here. I mean, I downloaded it and I did a freeze by frame in Adobe Premiere. We went through every single frame of that. And I was like, look, there's a fire. There's a gunshot that went off right there. Let's look at it. That was a fun, man. I had no idea. I still don't really know what I'm doing here on YouTube, but I knew a lot less even back then. And it was kind of fun to just sort of experience that, right? It was a new experience. And Tremendous has been there since the beginning. How fun. All right. And I think that is it over from locals, my friend. I saw one last one come in from Melanie before we wrap it up for the day. Says, me again. Hi, Melanie. Thanks for being here. Says, if Pelosi was trying to make sure the little girl was in the picture, she would have pulled her closer, not push her away. Pelosi is evil. Yeah, right. Don't you do that like with a child? Like, it's like, oh, come up here. Like, come up here. You don't elbow them. That's ridiculous. Well, I don't know. Maybe Pelosi knows. I don't know. No, she's just a bad person. That's all there is to it. All right, my friends. Well, I think that is it for us for the day. Let me give a shout out over on Rumble. We have over here, Anyting's in the house. I'll Paint, Soul Warrior Vibe is here. Shout out to everybody on Rumble who's chatting away over there. And let's see what they're talking about. Whoa, Michael Stenger, the Senate Sergeant at Arms that resigned the day after January 6th, just died? What? That is from Tricky. Let's pull this up while we're here. Michael Stenger, that's terrible news if that's true. Let's see. Is that true? I don't know. Let me pull that in Google. Fox confirms that Michael Stenger, yeah, he's died. Chad Pegram here. Let's pull this up here. Thank you for shouting that out here, Tricky. Here, take a look at this. Chad Pegram. Fox News confirms that Michael Stenger, the Senate Sergeant at Arms who was in charge of the Senate and their security the day of the Capitol riot, has died. Oh, man. Yeah, and this guy's over from Fox News, and we actually have this guy on our J6 mind map, so let me show you that one. Here, Stenger, I had a lot of questions about Michael Stenger because he was in charge of security, and I think we have him under the complicity segment. Yep, there he is right there. Michael Stenger, Sergeant at Arms, so rest in peace. And we just got that news over from Tricky on Rumble. Thanks for that shout out. Interesting. Well, okay, well, we'll see if there's any commentary about that tomorrow at the next J6 Select Committee fake garbage hearing. And that's going to be taking place. We are not going to cover that live. We will certainly do a recap tomorrow afternoon after the conclusion of the fake hearing. But that, my friends, looks like it is it for us for the day. And I want to thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you to everybody for all of your generous support. Thanks for becoming a member on Locals or on YouTube. We have an amazing, let me switch my notes over here again. We have an amazing member meetup, which is coming up on, here, let's close that up right here. Member meetup Thursday, June 30th. 12:30 p.m. Pacific, so 3:30 Eastern time. It's going to be about 90 minutes, I'll say, probably about an hour of content with some Q&A. I'm trying to figure out a call-in line so that you can actually call in and say, Rob, that's a stupid thing, or that's a great thing, or whatever. And that would be, well, I'll see if I can get that figured out, but it'll be about 90 minutes or so on Thursday. It's going to be a private live stream link. So if you're a member on YouTube or on Locals, and as I said, send me an email or a DM if you need access. If you can't afford access, I'm happy to give that to you. But it is somebody just posted a picture of me on the big screen. I'm not sure I like that, Chairman, but that looks okay. Looks okay. So anyways, we're doing that now. Thank you to everybody who is supporting us on Locals, on YouTube, or sending clients to our law firm, referring our law firm people who need help with criminal cases in the state of Arizona. We're very good at what we do. We'd love it if you supported our firm, 480-729-6280, the R&R Law Group. And of course, before we wrap it up, shout out to all the mods in the house. I'm missing Vientikis. I don't know where V was today. I miss him. But K Bean is here. Zulu is in the house. And we saw Just Cause earlier. They're holding the forts. And of course, always like to shout out our super duper Spotlight supporters. If you're a Spotlight supporter, this is the highest tier on YouTube. or if you are supporting the show with an equivalent tier on locals, you get a little extra real estate here on the show note mind map. And I want to support the people who are supporting the show. And so John is here. John just signed up here. He's over at qsimple.com. Pretty cool website. And he does extremely valuable work, actually, right? Sort of marketing lists and sales funnels, and sort of helping you craft your message in a way that will deliver your message to the right people so that you can help each other in a mutually beneficial way. And so he's supporting the work. Check him out, qsimple.com. And Chris Romero is here. Chris and David B3 and Dr. EMB are also Spotlight supporters. And so no links for them, but they're just very amazing, generous people who are supporting the work that we do. I'm also looking for lawyers who want to be on the lawyer referral list. I got phone calls last week from 3 people looking for criminal or traffic lawyers in Illinois, criminal or traffic lawyers in Ohio, and criminal or traffic lawyers in Florida, right? So we are building out our law firm national referral list. Of course, this show is, starting to reach more people. And so we get calls. Hey, do you work in Florida? No, but I need criminal lawyers who are in those states. Actually, now that I think about it, I know somebody in Florida. Adam Rossin, great lawyer. So I already have that one. But Ohio and Illinois, I'm looking for lawyers. So or any other state, right? If you want to be on our internal referral list so we can send business to your state or to you, right? I'd like to make sure you're, a competent attorney, of course. But we don't have lawyers in all of the other states. So I would love to, of course, get that set up. But okay, that is it, my friends, for the show. I appreciate you being a part of it. And it is time for us to wrap it up. And so we're going to leave it right here. We're going to be back tomorrow to do it all again. Same time, same place, same location. You know the drill. Thank you, everybody, for the support. Thanks for signing up, becoming members, and for sharing the show with your friends and family or anybody else who you think might enjoy it. The show continues to grow because you share it and you invite people to join us. And I really do appreciate it. And that is it for us for the day, my friends. I'm going to leave it right there. Have a tremendous evening. Sleep very well. I'll see you all right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.